So we're talking about the bulk agreement and the marketing agreement. Kevin, I believe we have sufficiently covered both the marketing agreement and the bulk agreement. Anything else that I might not have touched on or asked you about any of the either of the two?
Uh, no, I think we covered them. Again, if there's a specific property that wants to dig deeper, we can do that. We offer all new clients and existing clients a free assessment. So we'll look at any property and outline the options for you before you have to make a commitment to us or to the provider.
Excellent, great. Now switching over to the electricity or the other utilities.
Mhm.
So you were mentioning about you having a partnership with a broker who evaluates how much electricity that a property consumes. Is it only electricity or is it also water and sewer and some of the other things?
It's electricity and gas. Water is typically one provider and that's it, and sewer is tied to the water. So there are some potential savings that we can share with you there. But the electric and gas is again just in markets that are deregulated. You've got most of them in Texas are that way. And what we can do is, assuming that there's no agreement in place, we can go out and shop your account and see if there's a better rate to be had. But there's a lot of projection in that, right? Because it depends on if it's a variable rate, if it's a fixed rate, what's the term on it. And it's difficult because you know that the rates for internet and cable are just going to, be steady or slight cost of living increases. Electric is different in gas because you don't know. Sometimes those rates can go up, sometimes those rates can go down. So our guy follows that stuff, and Josh is very good at it, and this is what he does for a living. He can help you understand the likelihood that this is going to be good. It may look good now, but maybe we expect rates to go down, which they do. So it really depends on your current situation, and again, that's like every single one of those is different. Every single property is different. Usage is different. How many exercise rooms, laundry rooms. What market is it in? What are you paying currently? Because that's one that jumps all over the board, right? If you have a property in one side of town and the same size property on the other side of town, but you signed the first property, you signed an agreement 2 years before the other one, your rates may be very different in those situations because it comes down to when you sign the agreement and whether you got a fixed rate or a variable rate or things like that. So even two comparable properties could have very different opportunities.
Got it. Now, help me also understand. So, this is also for gas because I had definitely heard about
Mhm.
electricity. I had, heard about gas, but not to the extent that electricity can be, you can get some good discounts and stuff.
Yeah, and it really comes down to, I mean, typically gas usage is not as much as electric. So electrics has tended to be where the focus was. Also, each market is slightly different. Some have electric deregulation, some have gas deregulation, some have both. Most of them have both that have one or the other. But it just comes down to the exact market and what's available in that market.
Got it. You talk about the fixed and variable rates, Kevin. From what I have seen or heard, we have seen the contracts where, hey, some rates are available for 12, 24, 48, 60 months, things of that nature. Talk to me a little bit about the fixed and variable rates versus the length of the contract.
Well, the length of the contract is, and that's why you got to take both of those things into account, right? I mean, if you're a guy who wants a firm budget and you want predictable expenses, you want fixed, and you probably want to carry it out as long as you can carry it out. So you may pay a little bit more or less because you're gonna be willing to sign for a longer period of time. Whereas the variable is just an unknown. I mean, it can fluctuate tremendously, and if it does, then you could get hit with some unexpected, unbudgeted expenses. So, for the gamblers, they may want to, roll the dice on the variable, but what we see is more people trying to get into the fixed rates. Variables sometimes, variables are almost like the old balloon loans, right, on a mortgage. So you come in at a variable rate that's maybe low, and then boom, when that first promotional period or something is over and it goes up a lot, and it puts you really in a precarious position financially if you do variable. So yeah, but we've got it so you can project it out and show you the examples and also the different providers if there's an opportunity available.
Got it. What about, I think when I look at some of the electricity bills, or whenever I've talked to some of the consultants itself, they talk about electricity to your unit, electricity coming to your property, all the way to your property, and no rate changes between the box or the zone to your property. Talk to me and help me understand, hey, what are they talking about?
I wish I knew. I'm not quite sure on how that is. I know, it depends on where the meters. If the meters are at each unit, then those aren't bills you're paying, most likely, right? Those are between the resident and the electric company. And so when I'm talking about the rates for you, I'm talking about all the bills you pay for that property, not the individuals
Nothing. But
themselves.
I think so. In about a couple of years ago, hey, there was an issue in Texas where there was a major issue with the grid, with the freeze,
Hmm.
and a lot of the infrastructure was not capable of handling the load which was being put on the grid, and ERCOT had a major meltdown. And I think there were some tariffs being put at that point of time, the emergency tariffs. And I believe there are certain rates which go up during the summer months and the winter months, depending on those tariffs, depending on if we are looking at if we are reaching the consumption levels within the state or not. And some of those tariffs kick in. Do you have any idea about some of those impacting the electricity bills?
I don't. I've got a specialist, Josh, who handles all that, and he would probably be. I mean, I'm sure he would be able to because he also lives in Texas, even though he does work in all deregulated markets. I'm sure he would be the one to. I'd be guessing, and I don't want to do that to you.
Great. No, I appreciate that. Okay, anything else that we need to talk about from an electricity perspective?
Electricity and gas, I think, are covered. Those two are kind of commingled because the providers are often, similar. There's sometimes the same companies, and
So
it's
again,
also true. Like the infrastructure is the same, right? If you change cable operators or internet operators, that other company might have to put their own infrastructure in, their own wires in. But if you change electric providers, you're not changing and having somebody come in there and rewire everything. They use the same grid. It's just that they are buying and offering the service through that same grid. So they're paying the owner of that grid, who's also a supplier of the services, those for the use for using that.
and
So
that's why we see the distribution charge on our bills as well. That's the
correct.
distribution. That's the
Yeah,
distribution
yeah.
charge.
So distribution is one, and then the suppliers are the other. And yeah, they pay a fee, but because they're buying in bulk and they can be more competitive, they can offer you savings.
Excellent. No, that's great. That's great to know. Switching gears a little bit, he talking about water consumption. Water again can be a big bill from an owner's perspective. How do you help property owners cut down on their water usage?
So there's a couple different things. You've got if you've only got like a couple of main meters and you're paying for water for the entire property, you can implement the RUBS system, which is oftentimes in your rental software, where you can put the billing in there and then charge it back based on like some square footage and things like that. That's one way you can at least recoup those expenses. The other thing you can do, it's more expensive, but you can actually sub meter, where you actually put the water meters out closer to the residence, and depending on what style you have, garden style versus, you know, multiple stories, in some cases that where then the resident can actually pay their own water directly. The other thing is that there's a I think it's patent pending. I don't think it's been patented yet, but it's a valve, and we were talking about this earlier, where the way the water flows through, and there is a presentation on our website about this, because it's very technical in nature, and the more I work with these guys, the more I understand it. But the water comes in, and in the water that passes through the meter, there's a certain amount of air and gas that gets into the system before it hits the meter. Once it gets through the meter, then it's your side of you own what's past that, right? So if a leak happens outside the meter, on the other side, they're going to have to fix it. But if it happens on your side, you're going to have to fix it. So what you can do is there's something called a flow saver valve, and it's designed to take the air and the gas out of the water so that after it hits that valve, you're only passing through pure water. And because of this, I will tell you that there is a slight, not not like the low flow shower heads where it's just a trickle or anything like that. There's a slight decrease in pressure, but honestly, it's not significant enough to cause resident inconvenience. But what it does is it takes all that out and passes on, so you're really using less water after it passes through, because you're using pure water and not water that's filled with air and gas. So now this valve is a lot of different options. There's one where you can actually buy it, install it, and you're done. They also have a program that's called savings sharing, where for a 5 year period you pay them an agreed upon. Well, you establish an agreed upon baseline for what water usage is, and then based on the new water usage, you split the difference for 5 years. So you would pay them. If your water bill was $1,000 and it dropped to 500 monthly, you'd then pay them $250 a month for the next 5 years. So
Got
that's really gaining some momentum, because you can't price water usage. I mean, you got to do your due diligence and look for leaks and all those sorts of things. And then there's some smart home technologies. We've got some partners for that. That's not really a savings necessarily. Well, I mean, it can be a savings, right? So if you do a smart home technology, what they're saying is that instead of replacing keys, right, you put a smart lock on, you can change the code without having to go back and rechange and rekey it, and when people move in.
We'll get to the smart home solutions in a minute,
All
Kevin.
right.
Let's,
Because it
no,
was
no, no, no
tied,
worries.
because they also have a leakage
Got it.
detection type thing. So, but yeah, so that's really the water options. And I can tell you, it just depends. The key for the flow saver valve is how many units are fed off that particular valve or meter, because you need one valve per meter. So if you've got a meter that serves 6 units, it may not make sense. It may not pay back. But if you've got a 4 story, 40 unit property, and you've got 1 or even 2 meters, then it could make a lot of sense, because it really comes down to the meters, the units per meter, because it's 1 meter, it's one valve per meter.
Got it. What
And they do
about
a free assessment as well. We've got a link where you put in information, and they produce a free proposal to kind of look at each property, because each property really is different.
excellent? Now, what about so this valve is put on your side of the meter and not on the utility side of the meter, correct?
Correct. It's you own it, so you can do anything you want your side of the meter.
But the water is still passing through the meter, so it's still looking getting all the gas and stuff, right? Is it
Yeah, that
not?
was my question at first too. But the way it works is instead of passing through, you're going to need more. You're going to be calling for less, right? So you're going to be calling for less water because you're using pure water that's not filled with air and gas. Is the way it works. There's a nice presentation on our website, or I can send it to you as well as on their. They've got a really good animated video on their website as well. It's flowsaver.com. And we can either connect you with them and stay engaged, or you can go directly to them. But yeah, they're it definitely reduces it. The average is about 15% reduction.
Oh wow, 15%. Yeah, hey, and $1,000 bill, that's $150 a month. So
Yeah, yep,
that's more than 1,200, $1,300 a year. So that's great.
yeah,
That's awesome. So moving on to some of the other solutions that you enable, hey, multifamily operators with. We start talking about smart solutions, if you may.
yep.
Talk to us a little bit about what you have to offer for our, multifamily operators, if you may.
Yeah, we work partner with a company called eProperty Care, and they have a lot of different smart solutions. Right, they've got smart thermostats, smart locks, and obviously the savings there is the reducing the electric and gas, and they can monitor it, and if somebody's not home, and so that's makes it more manageable. We touched on the locks, right? So now, when somebody moves out, you've got to rekey, or the key's lost. You've got to take and there's that hard cost of changing that out. These are electric or coded locks, and all you go in, and once the lock's on there, you just change the code. You can even do one-time codes. So if there's somebody that needs maintenance, you can get them to approve a one-time use code, to allow them to go in if it's okay with them, and they've waived to go in and fix something while you're gone. If you've got a pet sitter or pet walker or somebody like that, you can then issue a one-time code. So there's convenience. Over time, it will save you money because the cost of the initial lock may be more, but you're not replacing it every time somebody leaves. They have some water detection, smart home uh, detector and things like that. So we just started working with them because we've been looking for a partner, because we have been getting more and more people asking about smart home technologies and things like that. And so eProperty Care is who we recommend and use, and they will also, we want to work with people who have the same kind of business philosophy we do, which is let's prepare free assessments and help you understand what it is. Some folks are like, they charge you. We've stopped doing business with some of the independent providers because they wanted to charge to do a free assess or to do an assessment, a site survey, right? A cost. And they're like, well, we'll give it back to you when you buy from us. And we're just like, no, we'd rather just get that done at no cost.
So is there hey, for some of these smart solutions, like whether it's a thermostat or the locks, or the hey, the key cameras, or hey, the rings, if you may,
Yeah.
are you able to charge like a facility fee for the residents as well? Have you seen
Yeah,
some of that in the market?
that's an individual owner's option, but yeah, you can certainly add a another cost, or it's going to make your property more attractive. When they're looking at, do I want to go here or do I want to go there? But yeah, you can. I mean, as far as I understand it, you can add whatever costs you want, within reason, um, to to, those amenities are included in some form or fashion in the rent.
Excellent. Great. Kevin, thanks a lot for helping
Thank
me
you.
figure out what other ways there are to increase the NOI for the operators. Anything that I might have missed?
You know what? The one other one that comes to mind is solar. So we've got a valued partner who is also an owner of multifamily properties, and he knows all the ins and outs and has the ability to do solar quotes, right? I do know that solar is, there. It depends on each of the circumstances and how many units you need, and which market you're in as well, because different markets give different rebates, and different markets, the providers buy back some of the energy, and others they don't. So, but solar is another opportunity. I do know that it's best done at either the time of construction or the time of acquisition, because then you can put those costs in and you don't have to go out and get the money later. But if it's part of the acquisition, he's saying that it tends to be looked upon more favorably, or the dollars work better.
That's excellent. That's great to know because I know from a solar perspective, there is a lot of opportunity out there. There is grants available. Not only that, for owners who are willing to put in the dollars, there is tax credits available as well.
Right. And
So
that's why,
definitely a lot of opportunities on the solar side. But maybe we'll talk about solar in the next segment.
yeah, that one varies greatly by state.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
All
I'm
right.
going to
Thank
stop.